welcome or welcome back. My name is Ari and today's vlog is about Becca's Bookoplathon. So for those of you who aren't aware what's going on, Becca and the Books is a booktuber, and this weekend for 48 hours she is doing a Bookoplathon, which is based off of her TBR game Bookopoly, which is picking books based off a Monopoly board. She has gathered together a team of YouTubers and they are going to be like live streaming the entire 48 hours. It's not like every single person is going to be live streaming 48 hours. It's like they've got 4-hour shifts and they're going to be doing live sprints for the whole 48 hours. How it works is we had 2 rolls from 2 different Bookopoly boards that we went into this event knowing, and then every 12 hours you get 2 more rolls. And the idea is to read as many books as you can, 1 to 8, I guess. Last time I did this I read 4, which is usually what like most people expect you to do, is like every 12 hours get another book in. So I did 4 the first time, so 4 is kind of what I'm going for, but I'm still trying to fit it within my alphabet, so I may not be able to get any. I'll at least get the first one because I've got books that fit the first one based off of what letter on the alphabet that I'm on. So the first 2 rolls that we got were a dark cover and a fantasy, and I am on the letter P right now in my alphabet challenge, and the book that I'm reading for the letter P happens to have a dark cover, so that is what I'm going for, and that is Poems for the End of the World. I think I will probably get this done before the next roll comes up, because even though like I'm gonna sleep before the next roll comes up, I still think I'll be able to get this done. So what I will probably do after that is start the Q book, which does fit for fantasy, and I'll talk about that later, and then hope that it will fit into one of the next 2 rolls. Or if not, then I'll just panic, and then you'll get to witness my panic. But that's where we're going. It has been about an hour since the Bookoplathon started. I'm a little bit behind because I had to finish out my work shift. So I am going to join the sprint that is currently going on and start reading Poems for the End of the World. And I'm gonna order some food. I'm thinking either Taco Bell or pizza, but I'll let you know when I get it. Alright, it's been like 30 minutes since the last clip, and I very quickly finished Poems for the End of the World. It took me like 15 minutes to read the whole thing, and then I was talking to my friend Marcel a little bit, and then I was ordering pizza, which once it arrives, I'll share with you. And yeah. That's basically it. So I'm gonna move on to the next book. This one I guess fits the fantasy prompt, but and it also fit the dark cover prompt, so sure. Hopefully it fits like something in the next rolls, because I don't think I'm gonna finish it, because it is how many pages are you? We're like 650 pages. So let's go. This is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. I know I'm reading the wrong Sarah J. Maas like series right now. Everybody else is reading ACOTAR and I'm reading Throne of Glass still, because I want to get through Throne of Glass before I start ACOTAR. So yeah, Queen of Shadows. Hi, I have pizza. It's mushrooms and apparently some sort of fungus that grows on corn, which kind of sounds gross, but apparently it's edible. Alright, well, it's Saturday morning and I slept through the rolls because I'm sleeping like a normal person and not trying to stay up like most of the 48 hours, right? So rolls went down at 5 a.m. It's now 10 a.m. so I still have plenty of time to read. But the big question was, I still have a lot of this book to go. Can I fit Queen of Shadows into the second role? Since I already had the poetry book that fit one of the first roles, this one was just kind of like I'm reading just to start it, right? And the answer is no. Role number 2, or roles number 2, were person of color rep. So Black, Indigenous, person of color, characters, and or author. This has neither. This is written by a white woman about white people and elves. And the other prompt is contemporary. This is fantasy. This is very clearly fantasy. So yeah, this doesn't come close to fitting into either category. I can't even like tweak it to make it fit to the categories. So from there, what do? Do I skip ahead to R and read a book, a fantasy book by a person of color? Or do I like leave the alphabet entirely and read a contemporary written by a person of color, right? And then I remembered I have been listening to an audiobook in my very, very, very small amounts of free audio time since like February, and I'm about 50% way through it, and it is both a contemporary and an by a person of color. So it is Transcendent Kingdom by Ya Jasi, and yeah, I've got about just under 3 hours left, so I will definitely be able to like quickly get through that and then continue on in my Queen of Shadows quest and hope that this comes up in the next round of rolls. Alright, hello, I am back. The third round of rolls just dropped, and I don't think I can fit Queen of Shadows in. I may be able to, but we'll see here in just a second. So the first of the rolls was a start of a series, and this is the 5th book in the series, so that doesn't fit for it. The other roll was a chance card, and how that you normally do chance cards is you'll have like a bunch of different cards with like books on them. So I think Becca has 16, but you can do as many as you want, right? As long as, I mean, at least 2, I guess. So what I have done is I have taken 4 books that I could possibly read for this prompt. Well, I mean, I could read any book, but 4 books that I'm willing to read for this prompt. And I'm going to do a random number generator 1 through 4. But I'm going to tell you what the 4 books are, because I don't think you can read this waving right here. So book 1 is Dark One, which is a graphic novel by Brandon Sanderson. So short, I can get through it really quick and then get back into reading my alphabet and finishing this book. Number 2 is this book, because obviously I'm going to put it on my choices. Number 3 is a very short novella called The Test, which is basically the same thing as the Dark One comic, where I could read that and then get back to reading this one. And number 4 is the letter R, so I could read that, use it for the use it for the letter R. That was way too hard to say, and then get back to reading this one or come back to this later, because that one I think is a fairly long book and I probably won't be able to finish it in time. But that one is Rhapsodic, which is just a fantasy romance. It was one of many R's, but it's the one that I want to read the most. So I've got 2 that I want to read, which is the Queen of Shadows and Rhapsodic, and then 2 that I don't really want to read, but I can fit in quickly if I need to. So let me go get my cell phone and we'll randomly number generate this shit. Alright, I have done this in a spinner format, so 1 is yellow, 2 is green, 3 is purpley blue, and this orangey red is number 4. So we're going to hit the spin button and see what I get. Maybe. There we go. And I got number 3. I don't know how visible that is, but it's a number 3, which number 3 was The Test. So that is this. It's a very, very, very short little novella. I should get through it fairly quickly, and then I can go back to this beast that I actually have been reading this whole time and haven't managed to put it on my BOOKOPLATHON TBR yet. Hopefully this fits into the last set of rolls. Stressful, man. Alright, we had our final roll drop while I was sleeping about 5 hours ago. And, shocking no one, the book that I've been trying to read all weekend does not fit into any of the prompts. The 2 prompts were set in modern day in a genre you don't typically read. And this is fantasy, which is my #1 most read genre, and I don't know when this is set. Like, it's fantasy. It's definitely not modern day, because it's not our universe. So I've got about 40 pages left in this, right? So I can get through this and then start another book, which means I need to move on to R. So my goal is to find a genre that I don't normally read, set in the modern day, that begins with the letter R. I think I got something, but it's a little bit of a stretch. So I'm considering anything that is not fantasy or sci-fi a genre that I don't normally read, because those are like my main genres, right? So anything outside of that, I'm going to say it's a genre I don't normally read. Set in the modern day is going to be like the last 10 years. So we're gonna give this some like breathing room. This doesn't necessarily have to be something that's like set in 2021 or 2020. So modern day is gonna get some breathing room. And I think I found something that works, kind of. We're gonna stretch it and just say it works. That is The Remakening by Clay McLeod Chapman. And this is horror, so I do read horror. It's just not one of my main genres. And then as far as set in the modern day, there's parts of it set in 2016. So I'm gonna say it's set in the modern day. But how this is told is it's like almost a curse, where it's takes place in the 1930s, takes place in the 1950s, takes place in the 1970s, and every 20 years a woman is blamed for being a witch, I think. So it's like 1930s, Ella Louise and her daughter Jessica are dragged from their home in the outskirts of Pilots Creek, Virginia in the middle of the night. Ella Louise is accused of using her apothecary for witchcraft, and both are burned at the stake. Ella Louise's burial site is never found, but the little girl has the most famous site in all of South, a steel-reinforced coffin surrounded by a fence of interconnected white crosses. Some wonder, if the mother was the witch, why is Jessica's grave so tightly sealed? And this question fuels a legend as their story is told around a campfire in the 1950s. Then there's a horror movie in the 1970s inspired by the story. Then there's a remake of the horror movie in the 90s. And then the modern day one is a podcast, a true crime podcast. So it does have like historical time periods, but it also does take place in modern day. And I think for the whole thing, we are following Amber in the modern day as she uses her podcast to re-explore all of these things. So I'm going to say that takes place in modern day. And that 2016 is close enough to modern that it's going to count. Does it work? I don't know. Do I care? Not really. I don't know that I'm going to be able to get through this before 5 p.m. It's 10 a.m. right now, and I have to get through 40 pages of Queen of Shadows and then this. So I'm going to try. Hopefully I make it. If not, then you know what? The world's not ending. But I'll catch you in a little bit. So I finished The Remakening at about 3, and then I fell asleep because I don't feel very good. So I'm just gonna sleep as much as humanly possible. But that is everything. I guess a quick review of what I read. We started with prompts 1, which were dark cover and fantasy. For dark cover, I ended up reading Poems for the End of the World by Katie Wismere. I don't know which name she put on this book because she uses both. For the second of the first prompts was fantasy, and I ended up reading Queen of Shadows. The second wave of prompts were POC rep and contemporary POC. I don't actually ever use that term. I use BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, People of Color. POC is just people of color. So it's featuring a character of color or written by an author of color. And for that one, I read Transcendent Kingdom by Ya Jasi, which is a book about a Black woman written by a Black woman from Ghana. A book about a Black woman from Ghana written by a Black woman from Ghana who now lives in the United States. Whatever, you get the point. And then that was also a contemporary. So that covered both prompts. Roll number 3 were a first book in a series and chance card. Now, for first book in the series, none of the books that I read all weekend fit that prompt. So that one I just did not do. But for chance card, how it gives you instructions, I'll probably put up the little thing here, is write a list of even mix of books you really want to read right now and ones you're less excited about. Number them, use a random number generator, and select the books you have to read. Out of the 4 books that I put on that list, I got one that I didn't really want to read right now, but it was short, and that was The Test by Sylvain Neuvel, which is really fucking weird. I can't really tell you anything about this because it's so short, but this dude goes in to take a citizenship test and shit goes down. And then the last set of prompts were set in present day and other, or a book from a genre that you don't typically read. So the book that I chose for that kind of stretched both prompts a little bit, and that was The Remaking by Clay McLeod Chapman. I think I keep saying The Remakening, but it's just The Remaking. I just can't read the English language. It's fine. But The Remaking, and this book takes place in like multiple different time periods. It starts in the 1930s and then skips 20 years for each section, but it does partly take place in modern day, so close enough. I counted it. And then it's horror, which I'm not going to say that I don't ever read horror, but I decided that a genre that I don't normally read, like 90% of the reading I do is either sci-fi or fantasy. And since this is neither sci-fi nor fantasy, I figured it's going to count for a genre I don't normally read. So there you go. And those were the, how many books was that? 5 books that I read for 7 prompts. I don't know how many pages that was. I didn't count before I started recording this, but that's pretty much everything. Let me know if you participated in Becca's Bookoplathon this weekend and what you read if you did. I'll talk to you next time. Bye!